Hi everybody, this is Everyday Commentary, and this is a video overview of this knife. And this knife is the Smock SK23. This is a custom knife produced by a gentleman named Kevin Smock, formerly of Bauer Blade Works. Like a lot of custom makers, he took the familiar path from modder to maker. And recently, at the 2018 SHOT Show, Spyderco announced a collaboration where they're going to produce a custom or a production version of this custom knife. So let me walk you through some of the highlights of this knife and explain to you why I like it, and I'm glad I added it to my collection, and maybe some of the reasons why Spyderco thought it was a good idea to take basically what is a rookie knife and make it into a collaboration. So first of all, this knife is about 3 inches long, and the blade, as you can see here, it's just a smidge longer than the Benchmade mini grip. And it runs a very unusual lock that is exclusive, or was exclusive, to Kevin Smock until he made his collaboration with Spyderco. So let me show you how this works. It looks like a regular button lock, but what it actually is it's a compression lock. And instead of dipping your finger down into the spine of the knife, normally most right-handed knives have a compression lock on this side, but instead of dipping your finger down into the spine of the knife, the button actually presses the compression lock out of the way and allows the knife to fold up inside. It's a really clever design, and it is extremely efficient. If you look down in here, you'll see that, sorry about bumping the camera there, but if you look down in here, you'll see that there is actually just a little metal tab screwed into place that acts as the lock for this entire knife. The lock, it starts down here and it kind of moves up to here and passes under the stop pin, and then runs right into the spine of the blade, the back of the blade, and right there is the button that you use to disengage the compression lock. And so after you do that, the knife is engaged, and you push this button and it moves it out of the way. Pretty clever. That's a really cool innovation, but that's not the only innovation. The other innovation is this thing here. I found Kevin Smock because at the time he was the only person doing the Dietz mod, and the Dietz mod was a modification developed by a guy named Alexander Dietz, who was a modder and then I think tried to do custom knives. I don't know what ended up happening to him, but what he did is he took the end of the Boker Quakin and cut this part off, exposing the tang of the knife to be used as something of a front flipper. So you see there, what you're doing is you're actually taking the tang of the knife, the part that would be hit by a frame lock, but here, it's up here because of the compression lock, and you're using that to open the knife. It's actually a really, really clever idea. And there's a couple benefits to this. Number one, I feel like it gives you a really good flipping action because you're putting some extra pressure on the blade to go around the pivot. So most flippers are right here. You're basically you don't have to sort of go over the speed bump that is the pivot. But by putting the flipper back here, it gives you a little extra bit of force to overcome, meaning that once you overcome this, you're almost certainly likely to engage the blade. The other thing that I like about this is it keeps the profile nice and slim, both physically and visually. You know, there's no protuberance here, which I think is really nice. There's a couple other things about this knife that are really nice. Number one, he did not go with the terrible sculpted pocket clip. Instead, he went in with a great little spring clip there. Some people call it the spatula clip because it kind of does look like a spatula. The finish on this knife, it has a two-tone anodizing. There's this goldish bronze and this bluish purple. It looks really great. The screws are all gold or bronze, whatever you want to say, brass maybe color. And then the blade itself is, as you can see, it is a stone-washed Wharncliffe blade with a very nice finger choil. You can see, just accepts your fingers quite nicely. The spine of the knife is crowned, which is really nice. There's 3 very well-cut, purposeful jimping lines, jimps. I don't know what the proper word is. They do give you a little bit of texture, but they're not so grippy that they'll shred your pocket or anything like that. The edge, I was told, has been refined a little bit. It came a little thick from Kevin. And that would be my one criticism of this knife. It's pretty thick all around. I mean, this is a thick knife. Let's see if I can show you in comparison to like the Spyderco Chaparral. I mean, you can see the Chaparral is about half as thick. And the mini grip, which is a pretty thick knife for a small knife, it's you know, it's still significantly thicker than the mini grip. So this is a pretty beefy knife. This little tab of brass back here, the back spacer, it adds quite a bit of heft to the knife. So, you know, if you're carrying this, you're going to notice it in your pocket. It's over 5 ounces. So it's a little heavier than I would like. I do have to say that I really like some of the fit and finishing touches. The nice, really beautiful, almost buttered edges here. Like this is like a melted stick of butter kind of edge. I love that. And I don't know why more makers don't do that. I imagine that it's relatively, it's not time consuming, but it's also not something that's really easy to do because you can't just put that on like a router. You know, it doesn't work that way. So it just gives the knife a really great feel in hand. It does cut well. It's a Wharncliffe, and as you can see, let me see if I can line it up here. It is a perfectly flat Wharncliffe. There's no recurve. It actually hits all the way across the surface. That'll make it easier to sharpen, and it'll make it easier to cut things, but you don't have any belly, so it's hard to do like rocking cuts or slicing cuts. There's not going to be a whole lot of chop, 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 because there's no pivot really. The other thing is I'm always worried about Wharncliffes because the tip gets pretty thin, but this seems to be pretty bulky. He kind of did a reverse tanto to get as much thickness to the tip as he can. I really, really like this knife. I think that this is a great and pretty amazing first piece, and this is really his first individual custom knife. And he did do a really heavy mod on the Spyderco Southern, which was a great knife, and the modded version is substantially better than the Spyderco version. It's one of my favorite knives. It's probably my favorite knife I don't own. But this version is really good. There's a lot of innovation here. It does have a lot of the design first things that Spyderco likes in its own knives, so I'm not terribly surprised that it got picked up, other than the fact that it was sort of a rookie effort from a new maker. But I think that just goes to show you how much these innovations are valued and how unique this knife is. Spyderco is a design first company, so having them pick up one of your designs has got to be a really great feeling. And Kevin totally deserves it. He's a very, very good knife designer. He makes really creative stuff, and you know, he really is tuned in with what the market and what users want. So if you get a chance, I strongly recommend you pick up one of the most innovative knives I've seen in a long time. This is the Smock SK23. The Spyderco version should be out sometime in 2018, and there are a couple of modifications. First of all, it is not a full Wharncliffe. It is a sort of a sheep's foot, more like the Spyderco, or more like the Benchmade mini grip. The other thing is, obviously, it has a thumb hole because it's a Spyderco. I don't think they kept the spatula clip, which would be cool if they did, because I like the look of the spatula clip and it actually works quite well. But I imagine that they will translate that into something more like the design language of the Spyderco. The other thing is, as you can see, this knife is S30V blade steel. It's not my favorite blade steel. It's fine. But the Spyderco production version will run S90V, and it will have, instead of a titanium handle, it will have a carbon fiber handle. So this is the SK23. Maybe if I get my hands on the production version, I'll do a little video of them sitting side by side. But look for a written review coming soon. Thanks.